Ever wondered why some men over 60 seem to gravitate towards the comfort of their homes, choosing peace over the chaos of the outside world? While society often labels these men as old, lonely, or out of touch, there's so much more going on beneath the surface. The truth is, these men are not just retreating from life. They've unlocked a level of emotional and mental mastery that most people never reach. A mastery that allows them to embrace solitude without fear or shame, finding power in stillness rather than in the constant hustle. So what's really happening here? Why do these gentlemen choose to stay home? And why does it unsettle society so much? In this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of the man who stays home after 60, peeling back the layers of what many might misinterpret as retreat. And trust me, it's not what you think. Stick with me, and by the end, you'll see these men in an entirely new light, and maybe even start to understand the value in slowing down when life has already taught you everything you need to know. Most people tend to view gentlemen who choose to stay at home with a sense of pity or misunderstanding, as if they've given up on life, as if the world outside no longer has any place for them. They assume that these men are retreating because they are no longer relevant, or that they've simply lost the will to engage with the world around them. But the reality couldn't be more different. What many fail to realize is that these men have discovered something truly powerful in solitude, something that cannot be found in the noise of the outside world. In choosing to stay home, these men have found peace, clarity, and control, things they've spent a lifetime earning through years of hard work, emotional labor, and experiences both bitter and sweet. It's not about withdrawing from life, it's about refining their life choices, living intentionally, and embracing a deeper understanding of themselves. The truth is, staying at home is a conscious decision that reflects strength, not weakness. So let's break this down and explore why, for these men, the comfort of home is actually a symbol of strength and personal power. A choice they've made not because they have no place in the world, but because they've already mastered it. It's not an escape, it's an evolution. Around the age of 60, many men experience a quiet, almost imperceptible shift in their lives. It's not a single dramatic event that marks the change, but rather a gradual realization that begins to settle in. One day they simply acknowledge, the outside world no longer excites me the way it used to. What once seemed important, the endless chase for approval, the constant noise, the relentless pursuit of social expectations, starts to feel increasingly like a heavy, unnecessary burden. The need to be constantly engaged, always on, no longer carries the same appeal. The outside world that once thrived on competition, status, and achievement starts to feel like a never-ending race they no longer wish to run. And so, without guilt or hesitation, they begin to retreat. Not to escape, but to reconnect with something deeper. They choose home as their sanctuary, the one place where they can finally breathe freely. Home is where they can stop pretending, stop performing, and simply be. It becomes a refuge not from life, but from the constant demands of external chaos. But here's the thing. This isn't about isolation or withdrawal from the world. It's about evolution. It's about growth. These men have spent decades living outwardly, but now they have learned the value of turning inward. They've realized that peace is a choice, and they've chosen it over the distractions of the outside world. This shift isn't a sign of giving up. It's a profound step in their journey toward emotional and mental fulfillment. They've learned that true strength doesn't come from engaging with every demand placed upon them. It comes from having the courage to step back, choose their own peace, and embrace a simpler, more intentional way of living. Here's the kicker. Society just doesn't understand it. Younger generations often look at these gentlemen, sitting comfortably in the quiet of their homes, and assume they've given up on life. They see men who no longer chase after excitement, who prefer the peace of their own company to the chaos of social life, and think they've somehow lost their spark, or worse, that they've become irrelevant. But in reality, it's quite the opposite. These men have lived through decades of experiences, some of them incredible, others painful, but all of them shaping who they are today. They've fought battles, led families, driven businesses, endured the highs and lows of life, and come out the other side with a wealth of wisdom. They've earned the right to enjoy the simple comfort of their own space, free from the constant pull of external demands. This isn't about withdrawing from life or choosing to disappear from the world. It's about recognizing what truly matters. These men know that not everything in life deserves their attention, not every social event is worth attending, and not every conversation is worth having. They've realized that their energy is precious and limited, so they choose where and when to invest it wisely. It's not about avoiding life. It's about intentionally selecting the parts of it that bring them peace, purpose, and joy. They've learned the incredible power of strategic restraint. It's about understanding that by saying no to the noise, they're actually saying yes to themselves, protecting their time, energy, and mental well-being. This level of discernment doesn't come from a place of weakness or defeat, but from a place of strength, self-awareness, and emotional maturity. As men age, something profound happens to their emotional needs. What once fueled them, validation from others, the need for constant social interaction, and the chase for recognition, becomes less important. The energy that once went into seeking approval, impressing others, and living up to external expectations starts to fade. In its place, a deeper sense of self-awareness grows. These men no longer feel the need to prove themselves or chase after fleeting moments of excitement. Instead, they begin to find a sense of peace and solitude in the quiet rhythm of their daily routines and in moments of self-reflection. This shift isn't just a passing phase. It's a powerful transformation. It's a realization that emotional fulfillment doesn't come from the outside world, but from within. A man who has spent decades living up to society's demands and expectations has now come to understand the true meaning of emotional self-respect. He no longer feels the pressure to chase novelty, drama, or the constant need for external stimulation. Instead, he values stability, peace, and the quiet assurance that comes from knowing himself fully. He's learned to seek balance, not chaos. Where once he might have thrived on new experiences, now he finds comfort in the familiar. This transition from seeking external validation to embracing inner peace represents a deep emotional maturation. A man who has finally realized that the key to contentment lies not in what's outside, but in what's within. And that is an incredibly powerful place to be. For the majority of their lives, these men have been in a constant state of giving, whether to their families, their careers, or their communities. They've played the role of providers, leaders, problem solvers, and caregivers, often prioritizing the needs of others above their own. Their time, energy, and emotions have been spent fulfilling obligations and meeting the demands of the world around them. But now, as they reach this stage of life, something shifts. They no longer feel the same urgency to give constantly. Instead, they take back control of their lives. At home, they decide when and how they engage with others. They choose the moments when they want to interact, and just as importantly, when they want to retreat. They are no longer obligated to respond to every call or attend every event. They now have the freedom to protect their emotional reserves and invest their energy only where it truly matters. This ability to choose to prioritize their own needs is a precious gift they've earned through decades of hard work, sacrifice, and selflessness. Home becomes their sanctuary, a sacred space where they can recharge, regain their mental clarity, and protect the well-being they've often neglected for so long. It's not just a place to rest physically, but a refuge where they can restore emotional balance, reflect on their experiences, and find the peace that's so elusive in the outside world. The energy they once gave freely to others can now be directed inward, fostering a sense of autonomy and emotional health that was long overdue. This is a stage of life where they no longer feel the need to prove themselves or follow the external rhythms of society. Instead, they've cultivated a rhythm of their own, a quieter, more intentional pace that allows them to live with purpose and clarity. People often misinterpret solitude for loneliness, but the two are not the same. Loneliness is not simply about being physically alone, it's about emotional isolation. It's the feeling of being disconnected, unseen, or misunderstood, even when surrounded by others. For these gentlemen, their homes are not a place of emptiness, but of meaning. They've spent decades dealing with external noise, social expectations, and interactions that were often shallow or obligatory. Over time, They've realized that being physically alone in their own space is far more fulfilling than being surrounded by people who don't truly understand them or their needs. The truth is, many of these men feel more at peace when they're by themselves. They're not running from people. They're simply embracing the freedom that comes with being alone. They've had their fill of small talk, shallow conversations, and forced interactions. Those moments that drain more energy than they provide. The superficiality of these exchanges no longer appeals to them. At home, in their sanctuary, they are free to be themselves without needing to wear a mask or pretend to be something they're not. In their solitude, they are finally able to embrace authenticity. No more pretending to fit into societal expectations or maintaining a facade for the comfort of others. They can be fully present with their thoughts, reflect deeply, and simply exist without external pressures. And guess what? They're happier for it. The peace they find in solitude is not a sign of emotional withdrawal. It's a sign of emotional clarity. They've learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's about reconnecting with themselves and finding joy in their own company, something they may have never truly had the time or space to do before. There's something profoundly powerful about a man who has gained full control over his life, his emotions, and his time. It's not just about managing external responsibilities. It's about mastering the inner world, where emotions, thoughts, and decisions are no longer dictated by external forces. As these men age, they enter a phase of self-integration, a deep, reflective process where they look back on their life and begin to make sense of all the moments, both the triumphs and the struggles that have shaped them. This process isn't just a fleeting thought. It's a conscious, sometimes painstaking effort to reconcile with their past, to understand how each experience has contributed to the person they've become. They begin to realize that peace doesn't come from what's happened to them, but from how they've responded to it. They accept their mistakes, their regrets, and even their losses, understanding that these experiences, while difficult, have been crucial to their growth. It's about coming to terms with who they are, not in the way others see them, but in the way they've come to see themselves. But here's the thing. This deep process of reflection, growth, and emotional healing cannot happen in noisy, chaotic environments. It can't happen amidst the distractions of everyday life or the constant demands of the outside world. It requires the quiet, focused solitude that only home can provide. Home becomes the sacred space where they can strip away the external noise and distractions, allowing them the mental and emotional clarity to truly process their past, understand their journey, and find peace with who they are now. It's in this solitude where they can finally integrate all the pieces of their life, making sense of it in a way that allows them to move forward with a deep sense of calm and self-respect. Now, to outsiders, these men might appear to be stuck in a monotonous routine. Coffee every morning at the same time, a slow, deliberate walk through the neighborhood in the afternoon, perhaps a quiet dinner alone at the same table each night. On the surface, it may seem like a life devoid of excitement, a routine that lacks the spark of adventure or the thrill of new experiences. But for these men, what the world may perceive as boring is, in fact, a source of great comfort, safety, and clarity. They've long let go of the need for constant excitement or the pressures of living life on someone else's terms. The rush to be everywhere, do everything, and experience everything has faded. Instead, they've found deep joy in the simplicity of everyday rituals. It's not about running from monotony, but about embracing it. Every cup of coffee, every slow walk, every meal shared in silence holds profound meaning for them. In these small, repetitive actions, they've discovered a rhythm that works, one that brings them peace. For these men, routine is not a chain that confines them, but a source of grounding. It provides them with a sense of control and stability, a reprieve from the unpredictability of the world outside. The repetition, once seen as dull or uninspiring, has become a source of comfort. The predictability of these moments is not something they want to escape, it's something they cherish. In a world that often thrives on chaos and change, they've learned that peace lies in the familiar. And that's exactly what they've found. Peace. For them, each day is a gentle, predictable unfolding. And it's in this simplicity where they feel most at home. One of the most fascinating and remarkable aspects of these men is their complete lack of need for approval from others. For much of their lives, they were conditioned to seek validation from the outside world. They chased after the praise of peers, the recognition of their achievements, and the acknowledgement of their contributions. They spent decades measuring their worth by external standards, how successful they were in their careers, how respected they were in their communities, and how many accolades they could accumulate. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. They've lived through enough of life's ups and downs to realize that the constant chase for validation is ultimately empty. They've learned that the opinions of others, while occasionally insightful, hold little weight in the grand scheme of things. The approval of others no longer has the power to dictate their choices, their happiness, or their sense of self-worth. They've realized that true value doesn't come from how others see them, but from how they see themselves. Their self-worth is no longer tied to external achievements, titles, or the recognition of others. It's rooted in something far deeper, the ability to live authentically, true to their own values, desires, and sense of purpose. At this stage in their lives, they have discovered the freedom that comes with not seeking approval. They no longer feel the need to fit into anyone else's mold or meet someone else's expectations. Their confidence doesn't come from accolades or praise. It comes from knowing who they are and living in alignment with that truth. This is a profound shift, one that many people never achieve. These men have learned that the most powerful form of validation is self-validation, and they've embraced it fully. They've come to understand that living authentically without constantly seeking outside validation is not just liberating, it's empowering. In doing so, they have unlocked a level of emotional freedom that allows them to be at peace with themselves, regardless of how others might perceive them. And that in itself is one of the greatest achievements they will ever experience. Now let's take a moment to address a common misconception that many people have about older men: the idea that they are emotionally distant or closed off. It's easy to assume that as men age, they become less emotionally available, that they build walls around themselves to protect against the world. But in reality, this isn't the case. It's not that they've shut themselves off emotionally. Rather, they have become emotionally discerning. Over the course of their lives, they've encountered all kinds of emotional experiences, some uplifting, others painful. They've faced heartbreak, loss, betrayal, and joy in ways that have shaped them. As a result, they've developed a wisdom about their own emotions that allows them to navigate the complexities of relationships and life with a level of emotional maturity. They understand that not every situation or person deserves an emotional response. They have learned to choose where they direct their energy and how much they invest in others emotionally. What some may perceive as emotional distance is, in fact, an intentional decision to protect their inner peace. These men no longer feel the need to explain themselves to anyone, defend their choices, or prove their worth. They've lived long enough to know that constant justification only depletes their energy and doesn't change the minds of others. Instead of engaging in endless debates or unnecessary emotional exchanges, they now reserve their energy for what truly matters: relationships and experiences that add value to their lives. This newfound emotional discernment allows them to live with a calmness and peace that many people long for. By limiting their emotional investments in situations or people that don't serve their well-being, they protect their peace of mind and maintain a healthy emotional balance. They are no longer at the mercy of external opinions or the pressures of constant emotional labor. Instead, they are in full control of where and how they engage, choosing only the connections and experiences that contribute positively to their life. Ultimately, the gentleman who stays at home isn't retreating from life. He's integrating it. After decades of living outwardly, of striving, achieving, and meeting external expectations, he's now taking the time to look inward, reflecting deeply on the journey that has brought him here. He's not hiding away from the world. Rather, he's taking a step back to gather the wisdom that only time and experience can provide. It's a time of consolidation, of making peace with his past, reconciling with the highs and lows, the successes and failures that have shaped him. He's finally able to understand how all of these experiences fit together to form the person he is today. This process of reflection doesn't mean he's stuck in the past. Quite the opposite. He's revisiting it to understand it more fully, to draw lessons and insights that will allow him to live more intentionally in the present. It's about simplifying his life, shedding the distractions, the unnecessary chaos, and the pressure to constantly prove himself. He has reached a point where he no longer feels the need to chase after the external markers of success that once seemed so important. Titles, accolades, possessions, or social validation. For him, success is no longer measured by what the outside world values. His success is internal, shaped by his ability to live authentically and on his own terms. He has learned that real success isn't about how much he achieves or how many people he impresses. It's about the quiet power that comes from aligning his life with his true self, from living in harmony with his values, and finding peace within. The drive to perform, to compete, to constantly prove himself has faded, replaced by the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that he is enough just as he is. This is the success that matters to him now, the success of emotional fulfillment, inner peace, and living in a way that is true to who he has become. So the next time you see a gentleman who prefers the comfort of his home, don't assume he's just hiding away from life. Understand that he's actually engaging with life more deeply than most ever do. He's not lost in the past. He's shaping the final chapter of his story with clarity and self-respect. This is the psychology of a gentleman over 60 who loves staying at home. Not withdrawal, but the evolution of peace, control, and emotional mastery. If this resonates with you or someone you know, let us know in the comments. What's your take on the idea of embracing quiet in your later years? And don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights like this.